Hey, I'm Crystal Rose, and you're listening to the What is Crypto podcast.
What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Nye, and welcome to another episode of the What is Crypto podcast. We talk about Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, blockchain, and all of these decentralized aspects on the show to help you educate yourself a little bit more around why this technology has potential. So today I have a very special guest on the line. I have Crystal Rose, and Crystal Rose is a technologist and a lifetime entrepreneur. She is the founder of Make Sense Labs, who has their flagship product of SenseChat, and it's the first secure decentralized messenger on the blockchain. Really cool stuff. Crystal is also a Forbes Top Woman in Blockchain and a TEDx speaker. In this discussion today, we are going to dive into the importance of controlling your own data and how you're actually able to do it. So we begin by talking about how data is kind of like the new oil or a new form of currency. We even discuss the evolution of the internet, beginning from Netscape to AOL to where we know now, where Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all these other social media platforms actually monitor and control a large amount of our data. We talk about what these companies are doing with our data and why it's important for us to get control of our data again. Before we dive in, I want to make the disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. This podcast is solely dedicated to education. We want to help people learn, and I, as the host, would like to learn more in the process. Finally, guys, before we get into the interview, come join us in our Facebook group where we dive into these discussions even deeper. If you have a specific question for the host or even one of our guests, you can ask it in the Facebook group and we can dive into a deeper discussion. And if you want to hear these episodes at the full length without any edits, you can become a member of our Patreon at whatiscrypto.com. All right, without further ado, let's dive into the episode. So data is, I like to describe it as it's like the new currency of the world. Why is it important for someone to control their own data?
Data really is the new commodity that everyone has, that I think very few people have understood the value of or how to capture or potentially even monetize on. And, I think it is really a very good statement to say data is the new oil. Arguably, cryptocurrency is the new gold, in that sense. But it is a resource that is hard for an individual to tap. It is something that is very valuable in mass, maybe not as much on the individual level. So it does actually have a good, oil is a great representation. I think you're right to say that. For the individual, your data has a lot of value to a lot of different companies and a lot of different entities that might be wanting to track it over time. And I think it's important for people to understand that there's an inherent layer of privacy that you have a right to, and that we trade our privacy for the use of free services, but we're also inviting data tracking into our homes. And I think the smart devices are going to be the Trojan horse, actually, that starts to allow mega corps into our private lives, which on a daily basis might not seem like it's a big deal, but over time and in aggregate, a lot of that data can be potentially used against an individual. Everything from whether or not you're going to get approved for a mortgage or insurance, or how an advertiser displays things to you, which can have a fine line between prediction of what you like over influence of what you're going to like or going to buy. So I think it's just really important to be very aware of all of the data feeds that are going out, from your location to your preferences to the conversations that you have inside your home.
And this kind of leads towards the discussion of like the evolution of the internet. And, data privacy wasn't super relevant when MySpace was around. At least maybe it was important, but it wasn't necessarily like a relevant conversation. There wasn't a lot of people talking about it. But now, since there's so many social media sites and it's become so prevalent for people to just share large amounts of their personal data and their personal lives and information with the world, with ease and with simplicity, and making it's kind of become a casual thing. Where do you think this is headed? Like, where do you think the future of of the internet is leading us towards?
I have a really optimistic view that in the future, the internet is going to provide value for everyone who is a contributor to it. Today, I would say one of the top professions in the world, or maybe not professions, but jobs, is content creation. Whether or not people realize that they even have a job doing it, most people are unpaid. But every single person with a smartphone or a laptop computer is essentially a content creator contributing to the largest media networks in the world, which actually mostly, like Facebook, don't even own their own content. So it's a very, very feasible possibility that if we get these networks into the right economic structure, everyone can benefit. Everyone can earn and be able to monetize on their time and on their content and on their data. For now, though, we're in a interesting sort of trough. We've gone through like waves and troughs over time with the internet. We started with the internet where every single user was anonymous and data flowed fluidly, mostly in a peer-to-peer fashion. If you think about sort of the old school like AOL or ICQ, there was no server in between a user's conversation because they simply couldn't house that kind of data. You actually had a real peer-to-peer conversation. And if the user was not online that you wanted to talk to, you couldn't have a conversation. They couldn't pass through the information. We went through another wave, which was everyone could have a website, everyone could have a blog, everyone could put their data online, and people really flocked to that to capture every single moment of their lives without really thinking about the implications of that data not only being stored on the database that it's on now on the website that you're using, and maybe you can delete it later, but also being snapshotted and archived by all these different spiders and crawlers and search engines and internet archives that still today are able to show you data from the 90s. So I think that was another wave where people just started committing everything they had in their life to the internet. And then Twitter microblogging came out, and it was an even shorter fashion. This is what I'm eating. This is what I'm doing. It's something that today we're seeing captured more on Instagram. There was a really interesting sort of valley that happened in this data collection process, though, which started the trend with Snapchat, which was a generation of people coming out saying, well, actually, I don't really want all of my private photos to be logged into something like Facebook forever. And I especially don't want my parents seeing this, or anybody else who might take my device. So I think that was the first time that people became aware that the long-term storage of their data might not be something that they want to do or opt into. So we're in another wave, and when you add in blockchain is really interesting because you have this element of immutability and you have this element of traceability that in a financial instrument especially becomes kind of odd. Like, do I want all my transactions traced and stored? So we're seeing how that plays out as well, and I think we're really just through the next wave in that evolution. But what I see is if you take that data and you take the ability to trace and track, and on a micro level be able to create a payment system around it, potentially everyone who's a content creator in the world who's contributing digitally to the overall platform that they're on, or the ecosystem of all the platforms, could earn for that time.
And the major question I have about all of this is it too late? I mean, for me personally, I've have 8 years of my photos, and thankfully I don't have too much like very personal data on there, but I have 8 years of photos on Facebook. I have over 2 years of my thoughts and my opinions on Twitter, not to mention Instagram, and other social media websites. Is it too late for people who have been putting out this information? And if it isn't too late, what can they do about it?
AI has already profiled you. It's really not too late to start being more careful about the data that you put forward, because there is no way to validate this unless we're internal at some of these large companies. But my thesis would be that their AI engines have not retroactively gone backwards and scanned every single photo to date. But if you use Google or you use Facebook every day, you use AI on the daily. AI is a major component of both of those networks. And in Facebook, especially, one thing that a lot of people are unaware of is that when you upload a photo, it scans the entire contents of that photo and tags it on the back end, meaning that they can see what's inside of your photo without you giving it a caption or without you telling them. And that's how they give you facial recognition, which seems very convenient. You can tag all your friends instantly now because it can see who's who. But not only does it see your friends, it sees what type of soda you're holding, and it sees what type of shirt you're wearing, it sees what the environment is in the background, and there are a lot of things that are tagged. Do we know what that's going to be used for? Most likely advertising and not nefarious purposes. But in the future, there might be a situation where if you uploaded that picture of yourself in the hospital or your car having a broken bumper, they might be able to scan that, and that might be something that can be relayed later to some institution that you might not want that data to be passed to. So there's every possibility, but I think from anything we've done in the past, I wouldn't worry so much because the technology wasn't sophisticated enough to know what to do with it other than to target us for advertising. And today it might be ads too, but I think there's as we see things like Cambridge Analytica, which if you haven't seen The Great Hack, it's such a good movie about the Own Your Data movement. It tells us how our data was used against us to basically force users into making a choice. And that's going beyond, predictive, helpful AI. That's going into influencing the outcome of an entire country or nation.
And I think this is like a really, really important conversation, specifically because I am educated around it. But there's a lot of people, Crystal, that aren't educated. And because they're uneducated around it, and frankly, they probably don't even care to become educated around it, it leads to a lack of understanding and, again, a lack of caring that their data is out there. And I think it's a major, major problem with the youth, especially. I remember when I was 15 or 16 or so, my dad specifically told me, he was like, I remember I posted something on Facebook that he didn't like. He specifically told me, he's like, don't post this stuff on the internet. And I was a 16-year-old. I was like, all right, whatever, Dad. Like, I'm not listening to you. But in some regards, he was right. In some regards, he was looking out for me in terms of my privacy of what I share on the internet. But I think the first question is, why should people care, especially the people that don't care?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there are two things. The first one is your data being used against you, and the second one is your data giving you some value that you can share in that all these other companies that are selling it are benefiting without you being involved. And so for the first one, maybe people are okay with being completely transparent about who they are, and that's totally fine, and that's an individual decision. But there are certain times when it might be used against you. So, for instance, there's a company based in LA called Fama, and Fama basically screens candidates for jobs. And I know this because our company SenseChat uses Fama to basically scrub the social profiles of somebody who's looking to get a job, and we see your entire history on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and others. And it uses AI, the same AI that is used to look inside of those photos on places like Facebook. And it sees, are you drinking? Are you smoking? What kind of things are in the environment? Also, what is the sentiment? Are you a negative person? Are you a positive person? Do you have a lot of things in the background? Do you have puppies? Do you have babies? And it can look for everything, hate speech. So within a few minutes, we can get a report compiled back to us, a many-page report on any person based on what their social behavior has been for the entire history of the time that they've been online. And that's something that, is just up to the individual. Are you okay with displaying those things? And maybe 8 years ago, you were a totally different person than you are today. And yet another compelling reason to use ephemeral tools or tools that just simply don't track your data, which is why we built SenseChat. We wanted a messenger that doesn't track your data. Then there's the other side of it, which is how could I, the user who has all this data that's earning billions of dollars for companies on advertising, get a piece of that pie? And this is where the crypto companies and blockchain-based companies that are working on data monetization are really fun to be a part of and to watch. Because if you think about that, so have you ever used 23andMe to get your DNA?
No, I haven't, but I've heard it's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. They even have it for dogs now. And so you get your DNA, it costs $100 or whatever the cost is today. I paid it $100, and your entire DNA set comes back, and you can even open up the data set and you can connect to people in your extended family. Your whole sort of genealogy kind of opens up, and you get this amazing database of connected people. That is amazing. And it's something that if everyone were to open up their DNA, we might be able to help fight cancer, something like that. At the same time, by doing that and by giving them that data, clicking that box, you have given them the right to sell it. And every time they sell a data set, they're earning something like $350. And they can sell your data set hundreds of times. It goes towards medical companies that are helping to put forward cures and doing good things. So I think it's a good mission. At the same time, for those tens of thousands of dollars that you potentially bring in for that one data set, maybe you should be earning a portion of that. And that's where a lot of these data ownership and data monetization companies are coming in, because they want to give people essentially a royalty on the data that is already being sold on their behalf.
And I think this leads into kind of the final real conversational question that I have here, and I'm interested to hear your response to this because I think you'll have a good reason to why. But do you think that blockchain can really help and solve this issue, or do you think this is kind of maybe just more a marketing tactic that people use to hype up blockchain?
If one technology can solve the problem, it's blockchain technology. And that's simply because it is a much easier format for traceability, for transparency, for, storing and collecting of transactional data and being able to create a microtransaction around it. So if there was a funnel, also it helps with ownership rights and validity, that the person that is being paid is the owner of the data. I really truly think that if there is a solution to be had, it's through blockchain technology. There are a lot of companies that have been trying to solve the problem for at least the data monetization aspect. But I think that, we're still early in being able to get the incumbent very large platforms, who are the ones that are responsible for selling the data, to adopt these new practices. So the challenge that you have is, if you sign up for a service that says that they will help you monetize your data, you're probably going to have to feed them your data from somewhere else. So we're sort of in a weird chicken and egg situation at the time being. But there are other ways to monetize your content, things that you would have already been contributing to the internet. So if you are, for instance, I think a lot of us are familiar with Patreon. If you're contributing, content out to your fans, music, videos, you can have them subscribe using a platform like Patreon. And there are others that are coming out now. You can stream live videos on DLive, or you can use other platforms for basically earning for your time. Like Tata2 lets you watch videos like Netflix, but you earn for your time. So I think over time, we'll see that new solutions are coming out. And even social network wise, we're all waiting for the launch of Voice. I think that's going to be a big potential solution to users owning their content and getting monetized, for it as well, just like Facebook. But it'll take a little bit of time. We're still early. The blockchain space is nascent, and this is our opportunity for really changing the game. And that's why we're in the messaging space. We're working on giving people the opportunity to have a conversation on text message, just like they would in person. No capturing of their data, no selling of their data, no sending you an ad based on a WhatsApp group conversation that you had. It's just completely peer to peer. And a lot of companies, I think, I would keep tracking and maybe try out their product, get involved in the beta, because I do believe it's going to be the thing that helps us out.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm really interested to see specifically with Voice, and what they're doing over with at Block One with that. What really happens, because I don't know. I have a very internal struggle with a lot of the things that go on in crypto. I've seen a lot of really really cool concepts and really really cool ideas, and I've seen people come out with these things. But I think when you market it as a specifically as a blockchain solution, it kills the interest of the masses, and it narrows the people that are going to use it, at least in the very beginning. So I'm kind of interested to see what they do with that, and see how see if they can position it as just a social network and then get people interested without people even knowing blockchains behind it or that their data is safe and secure. It'd be pretty cool if that could catch on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to market is basically earn something of value for your content and time that you'd already be contributing somewhere else. And that's where we're going to see it. I definitely feel the struggle of telling everyone you're a blockchain technology solution. I think it's the same as if you were to say, hey, we're an AI solution. No one knows that Facebook is an AI powered platform, and that all of your messages, and this is in their terms of service, all of your messages on Facebook Messenger are scanned by AI before they're encrypted and stored in their database. And I don't know if Facebook Messenger encrypts. I think WhatsApp does, but either way, both of them scan your messages with AI to start. But no one thinks of them as a AI company, and that's the problem with talking about the underlying tech. Blockchain, I don't think, is a word most people are going to use when they're talking about solutions and tools. They will just say, voice the social network.
Agreed. Super agreed. Well, Crystal, thank you for coming on the show. I super appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Great to chat with you.
Guys, thanks for tuning in today to the What is Crypto podcast. It really means a lot to me that you guys tune in and you listen to these episodes. Today's guest, Crystal Rose, is an amazing person. She's very, very intelligent in the regards of blockchain technology and why this stuff can help. And I really enjoyed our conversation. I especially enjoyed the matter where we discuss about why our data is important. I think it's something that's really, really overlooked today in society, with everybody using Facebook, everybody using Instagram, everybody utilizing technology, but they're not thinking about where their data is going, who's using it, where it's being stored, or any of these aspects. So it's really refreshing to have these kind of conversations. The thing I really want you guys to do today is I want you to do your own research, DYOR. I want you to take a step back, and I want you to make a list of all the social media sites that you are a member of. Beyond that, I want you to also, in that list the time that you've been a member there. So say you joined Facebook in 2008 or around 2008. I know everybody doesn't always remember, but I'd like you to say, I joined Facebook in 2008 and I am still a member today in 2019. When you have that data, you'll get a better scope of how long you've been utilizing these platforms for and how much information and how much of your personal data these sites might have. It might give you a different perspective on this conversation. Finally, guys, please give us a rating on iTunes. It would mean a lot to us. Give us a 5 stars, drop a comment, and most importantly, please subscribe. It means a lot to us and what we're doing here. We're working very hard to bring you some of the best information possible. All right, guys, it's your boy Nye, and I will catch you in the next episode.